Hey, it's Daniel Gillespie with UponArriving.com, and in this video, I'm going to be giving you some special tips to help you become a Southwest Pro. So tip number one is to get the Southwest Companion Pass. This is a special pass that allows a companion to fly for free with you for up to 2 whole calendar years. And you can change the companion up to 3 times per year. Now, in order to earn the companion pass, you're going to need 100 qualifying flights or 110,000 rapid rewards earned in a calendar year. Earning 110,000 rapid rewards may sound like a lot, but it's actually extremely easy, which brings me to tip number 2. Find the best Southwest credit card offers. We've seen offers ranging from 25,000 points to 60,000 points for these cards. That is a wide and drastic difference. So the key is to find the best offers so that you can earn rapid rewards and earn the companion pass very quickly. Because remember, it's good for 2 whole calendar years. So you want to earn the pass as early in the year as possible. Now, Chase did just make it a little bit harder to get because you can no longer get 2 personal Southwest credit cards. However, you can still get 1 personal and 1 business credit card. And something else to note is that Chase will match you to higher offers. So if you apply for the Southwest card and a higher offer comes out within 90 days of you getting approved, all you have to do is contact Chase and ask them to match you to that higher offer, and they usually will do that. So if you want to find the best offers for the Southwest cards, be sure to check the link below and I'll direct you on how to do that. So tip number 3 is to understand the Southwest boarding policy. So Southwest is a little bit unique in how they do their boarding. Basically, you have to check in 24 hours prior to departure and you'll be issued a boarding group and a number within that group. Whatever group and number you get, that's where you will line up for boarding, and then you'll enter the plane and be able to choose any seat that you'd like. So you don't reserve a seat on Southwest, which drives some people crazy, but it does offer you some added flexibility. So the key is to check in at that 24-hour window right when check-in opens. And there actually is a service that you can use. It's called Southwest Earlybird. Now this will cost about $15 to $25 depending on your route. But what it does is it automatically checks you in 24 hours prior to departure. And this is pretty much a guaranteed way to get a high A boarding pass or a low B boarding pass. Getting a pass like that will put you in position to have a window or aisle seat no problem, and you should have plenty of overhead storage bin space. But this brings me to tip number 4, which is that you might not need Southwest Earlybird. If you have access to the internet 24 hours prior to your departure, you really don't need Earlybird to secure a good spot. If you pre-enter your contact information on the check-in page and wait for that clock to hit exactly 24 hours before you depart, you should be pretty much guaranteed around the same spot, which should be good enough for a window seat or a aisle seat depending on your preference. Now, the only time that you really need Southwest Earlybird is when you don't have access. So for example, if you're going to be out and about, maybe you're going to be scuba diving or something, you have no internet access. In that case, then maybe it is worth it to shell out that money because you could be stuck in a C boarding spot, which could put you in a middle seat. So tip number 5 is to know how to save seats on Southwest. So there is a hot debate on whether or not you should be allowed to save seats on Southwest. Many people are anti-seat saving. Myself, I think that it's okay to save seats within reason. If you're just saving 1 or 2 seats, I don't see anything wrong with that. But some people always have to take it to the extreme. So if you're going to be saving seats, the key is to go to the back of the plane. And I mean the very back of the plane, because back there, people just really don't care what you do. So if you're boarding up a plane with your softball team or your band or whatever it is, and you're hoping to lock down a few rows in the front of the plane, you're practically begging for confrontation. But if you go to the back, you secure a couple of rows, chances are, that's going to be the very last place to board, and you should be able to lock down those seats for a little while. Tip number 6 is to use Business Select to upgrade for extra legroom. Now, Southwest operates primarily 737s, and there are 2 versions, the 737-700 and the 737-800. The 800 is a bigger aircraft, and it actually has more rows with extra legroom. Now, why do I bring this up? Well, if you know which aircraft you're flying on, it could affect why you may choose to upgrade to Business Select. And I'll talk about Business Select in a second, but for upgrading purposes, what it does is it gives you priority boarding. So you'll be issued a boarding pass for either A1 through A15. So let's say you're flying to a leisure destination like the Caribbean. Chances are there's going to be very few people who purchased a Business Select fare. In that case, you could upgrade and possibly get a A1 boarding spot. With an A1 boarding pass, you can choose pretty much any seat on that flight. And the good thing is, pre-boarding cannot choose the emergency exit rows. So those will always be open to you if you are the first to board. So what you want to do is you want to talk to the agent either at the check-in or at the gate to upgrade. And you should ask them, what position will you get if you choose to upgrade? And they should be able to tell you exactly which position within A1 to A15 that you will get. So if they tell you that, you and maybe your partner will be seats A13 and A14, well, in that case, you may not want to upgrade because chances are those seats with the extra leg room or some other good seats may already be taken. Now, this brings me to tip number 7, which is Southwest does not have a true business class. Okay, so I do think that Southwest should change their terminology. Calling their fares business select, I think it does confuse some people, and they expect to have that traditional business class or first class section with seats with extra leg room and their own little cabin, but that is not the case with Southwest. Everyone is on the same level on Southwest. It's basically just a big plane full of economy seats. Now, as someone who loves to use their points for business class and first class, this is slightly disappointing, but it's also kind of a relief because there's no pressure to upgrade or to pay extra, and you don't have to experience that peasant walk through first class when you're not flying it. So it's kind of nice. Tip number 8 is that Southwest serves a lot of secondary airports. So for example, here in Houston, the big airport is George Bush Intercontinental, but then there's also Houston Hobby, which is a much smaller airport, and that is where Southwest flies. Now, you want to know this because that means that you're going to be going without a lot of the amenities. So for example, if you just were looking into getting an airport lounge membership and you're flying a lot of Southwest, you may not be able to use that very often because some airports like Hobby don't really have any lounges at all. But on the flip side, these airports are smaller, therefore they are easier to navigate through. So if you're someone who just likes to get in and get out, flying Southwest can actually be a better option. Tip number 9, Southwest allows you to fly with 2 free checked bags. They are one of the only airlines that allow you to do this, and these bags are in addition to your free carry-on and personal item that you can take on the plane. This is a great way to save money, and this is why when you're comparing Southwest fares to those ultra low-cost carriers like Spirit and Frontier, you have to factor in your baggage because you could be spending a lot more money trying to pay for baggage fees with those airlines versus Southwest, who's not going to charge you anything. Now, if you do want to bring a third bag, the prices start at $75. Tip number 10, Southwest will give you free snacks and free drinks. Now, these snacks are going to be things like pretzels and peanuts and crackers. And for the drinks, they'll offer you complimentary sodas, things like that. But Southwest does not have any kind of like fancy meal tray that they will serve you. So if you are someone like me who is pretty much always hungry, maybe you just want to go grab a sandwich or something in the airport and stuff it in your bag or in your face and right before your flight. Tip number 11 is that last minute flights with Southwest are very expensive. Okay, I used to learn this the hard way when I was going to school in California. I would procrastinate all the time and wait to book my flight until the last minute. And sometimes I would be shocked to see how expensive those Southwest flights got. They could be so cheap a couple of months out, but if you're trying to book something a few days or a week out, those prices sometimes can skyrocket. So if you want to take advantage of the low fares, be sure to book in advance. Now this brings me to tip number 12, which is that Wanna Get Away fares offer extreme value. Now these are the cheapest fares with Southwest, and they offer the least amount of flexibility, but these can be extremely cheap, especially if you can take advantage of one of those flash deals. So these flash deals come around every so often, and you can find fares as low as $39, which is crazy cheap. Now keep in mind that those fares are going to come with a lot of restrictions. For example, you may only be able to fly on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. You may have to fly within specific time periods, and also they're going to be limited to certain routes. But still, keep an eye out for those fares because that's a great way to save money or just use a very small amount of points. Tip number 13 is to rebook your flights and save money whenever the price drops. So Southwest is great about this. There are no change fees, and if you see that your fare has dropped, all you have to do is rebook it and you will be issued a refund if you have a business select or anytime fare, or you will receive travel funds if you have booked an anytime fare. Now this brings me to tip number 14, which is an extremely valuable tip, and it is to convert your travel funds into love vouchers. One of the most common ways to get travel funds is when you cancel a fare. So if you cancel a anytime or business select fare 10 minutes prior to departure, up to 10 minutes prior to departure, you'll be issued a full cash refund. But it's different for one-way getaway fares. As long as you cancel 10 minutes prior to departure, you'll be issued travel funds. Now, if you forget to cancel, you lose everything with the one-way getaway fare, except if you made a booking on points, you should be able to get those points back. But travel funds have a lot of limitations. Number one, they expire 1 year from the date of booking. Okay, not the date of flying, but the date of booking. They also can only be used for the passenger who had their ticket canceled. So if you booked a flight for a family member and you're hoping to use their credits for yourself, you cannot do that. Those credits can only be used for that family member. However, within 6 months of those travel funds expiring, you can get them converted into something called a love voucher. And a love voucher can be used for anybody. So this is a great way to hold on to your value. Now, the thing about love vouchers is that they will expire within 6 months. And there also is a $100 reinstatement fee. So if your travel funds are only $100 or less, it really doesn't make sense to do this, but if it's several $100s that you have in travel funds, then it's a great way to save your value. Tip number 15 is that if you have kids 6 or under, you can actually board between groups A and B. This is called family boarding. Now, the terms are a little bit weird, and it basically sounds like you only can get family boarding for 1 adult per child 6 and under. Okay, so that would make it sound like if you had 2 adults and let's say 2 kids 6 and under, and then a 10-year-old, that 10-year-old would have to board by themselves. But in practice, that's never really how it plays out. And if any Southwest agent would not allow your family to board together, that would be pretty crappy. The one exception would be if you're one of those families that has kids that are like 20 years apart and you have basically grown adult kids, chances are Southwest is not going to allow them to board with you in the family boarding group. Also note that if you have a boarding pass in the A group, then it kind of defeats the whole purpose of doing family boarding because you'll be boarding before them anyway, so it's something that you just don't really want to do. The final tip is number 16, and it is that Southwest releases availability about 7 months in advance. Okay, so they're not like other airlines that release it about a year in advance. And also Southwest will publish a specific date that they will be releasing the new inventory on. So you can find a link to that date in the article below. And this is a great thing to keep an eye on if you're trying to maybe book a lot of the cheapest tickets, either with cash or with points to certain destinations. With the new flights coming up to Hawaii, there's going to be a lot of people keeping an eye out on those flights as soon as they open. And typically those flights will become available to book that morning, so sometime around 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so keep your eye out for that. But note that there are oftentimes technical glitches that do kind of slow down the process. So that's it for Southwest tips. I hope that you found these tips helpful and informative, and if you did, be sure to subscribe and hit the like button.